The wind howled like a beast outside the small survival tent. Snow slammed against the thin fabric, making it shake. Jack, a human explorer stationed on the frozen moon Varel 6, sat wrapped in a heat blanket, shivering despite the power heater. Near his feet, outside, the storm had grown worse. The ice wind could tear through metal and kill in minutes. Jack checked the tent sensors. Temperature, -80 degrees Celsius. Wind speed, 130 kilometers per hour. Deadly. He wasn't supposed to go outside. No one could survive in this weather. That's why Jack froze when he heard the sound something soft, like a hand brushing the tent. He thought it was the wind. Then it came again, a light thud, followed by a weak cry. Jack's heart skipped. He grabbed his flashlight and unzipped the tent just a little. The cold hit his face like knives. He pointed the light outside and saw something moving. At first, he thought it was just windblown debris. But then he saw it, someone crawling across the snow. Small, fragile. A figure with long white hair tangled in the wind, skin nearly the color of frost. A girl, an alien girl. She was barely conscious. Her fingers dug into the snow as if she was trying to crawl forward, but had no strength left. Her body trembled violently. Holy stars! Jack muttered. He wasn't supposed to bring anyone into the tent. He wasn't even supposed to open it during a red storm. But she would die out there in minutes. Without thinking, Jack pulled on his thermal gloves, zipped open the tent, and rushed out. The cold hit him hard, like a wall. He dragged the girl into his arms and stumbled back inside. Once the flap was sealed, he collapsed with her in his lap. She was ice cold. Jack unwrapped one of his heat blankets and wrapped her tightly. Her body was small and light, almost weightless. Her skin had a faint glow, and her face was smooth, almost doll-like. Thin ridges ran along her cheekbones, marking her as non-human. But her expression, pain, fear, and exhaustion, was something Jack understood instantly. He placed her near the heater. Her lips moved slightly. Please, don't let them find me," Jack blinked. "You speak English?" She didn't reply. Her eyes fluttered shut. For a moment, Jack stared at her, unsure what to do. He had no signal. The storm had knocked out all communication. The base was too far, and no one would come in this weather. He was alone with a strange alien girl who appeared from nowhere. In the middle of a deadly storm, he scanned her body for wounds. No major injuries, but her clothes were torn. Strange symbols burned onto her arms like tattoos, but they pulsed with a dim light. He whispered to himself, "Who are you?" The girl shivered again. Jack added another blanket and offered her warm water from his thermal flask. She sipped it weakly. Her eyes opened, a little large, silver eyes with faint lines like stars swirling inside them. "Name?" he asked softly. "Lyra." She whispered. That was all she said. Jack nodded. "I'm Jack. You're safe now." Lyra shook her head slowly. "No, they'll come." "They always come," Jack frowned. "Who?" She didn't answer. He sighed and leaned back. This was bad. If someone was chasing her, they might not care about the storm. And Jack's tent wasn't built to hold off invaders. Still, he looked at the girl wrapped in his blankets. She had no weapons, no gear. Just a strange crystal necklace around her neck, glowing faintly blue. She didn't look like a threat. She looked scared. Alone. Jack wasn't a soldier. He was just a field explorer, here to collect samples and data. But at that moment, he made a quiet decision. If someone came for her, they would have to go through him first. The storm outside still roared like an angry monster, but inside the tent, the silence had become heavy. Jack sat across from the alien girl, watching her closely. She was wrapped in all the heat blankets he had, her breathing shallow but steady. The small heater worked overtime, humming softly. But something felt wrong. Jack had seen frostbite before. He had seen trauma and exhaustion. But this girl, Lyra, she wasn't just cold. Her body temperature was rising too quickly, almost unnaturally. Her skin had started to glow faintly, pulsing with light beneath the surface. It wasn't fire or fever. It was something else. Something not human. Jack leaned forward. Lyra, can you hear me? Her eyes opened slowly. That silver light in them wasn't just reflection. They shimmered with moving shapes like constellations trapped behind her pupils. You're safe, Jack said. No one followed you, not yet. Lyra sat up slowly, her hands clutching the heat blanket tightly. Not yet, she echoed. Her voice was soft, but something behind it carried weight like she had seen too much. Jack noticed the symbols on her arms again. Now in the better light, he could see they weren't tattoos. They were alive. Glowing lines that moved ever so slightly, like flowing circuits or veins made of light. What are those? He asked, pointing gently. Lyra looked down, and for a second, fear flashed in her eyes. They're not mine, she said. Jack blinked. What do you mean? She didn't answer. Instead, she turned toward the tent wall and stared at the flapping fabric. They gave them to me, she whispered. Who? Did? Lyra's voice grew colder. The ones who built me. Jack's skin prickled. Wait, built you? She looked over her shoulder. Her face was blank, but her voice was trembling. I wasn't born. I was created. Grown in a lab under the ice of Karen 9. My body is half organic, half light code. I wasn't made to live. I was made to unlock something. Jack leaned back, slowly, trying to understand. Unlock what? Lyra touched the glowing necklace at her throat. It pulsed in rhythm with the symbols on her arms. There is a weapon buried deep beneath this planet's ice. I'm the key. That's why they hunt me. Jack exhaled sharply. You're telling me you're a living access code for some kind of alien superweapon? Lyra nodded once. And? They want to use you to destroy something? They want to control everything, she said quietly. They will use the weapon to wipe out resistance, colonies, civilizations, your people. Jack ran a hand through his hair. So why did you run? She looked at him, eyes shimmering. Because I didn't want to become death. For a long time neither of them spoke. Outside, the wind pounded harder. The tent shivered. Finally, Jack broke the silence. Lyra. Why come here? Why my camp? She looked confused, almost sad. I didn't choose you. I was falling, crashing. Your signal, it was warm. I followed the warmth. Jack felt a strange chill that had nothing to do with the cold. He checked his beacon. It had been sending a weak emergency pulse after last week's storm damage. It wasn't meant to attract anyone. But it had. And now, because of it, he had a living weapon in his tent, and her hunters could be anywhere. Just then, the power blinked. The heater stuttered. The lights flickered. Jack jumped to his feet. No. He checked the power cell. Still half full. No reason for a drop. And then Lyra gasped. She grabbed his arm. They're here. Jack's eyes widened. What? How do you know? She didn't need to answer. Outside the tent, something moved. Not the wind, not snow. Shadows tall, thin, and silent drifted just beyond the fabric. Jack could see their shapes, 3 of them. Maybe more. Lyra's hand tightened on his. They can track my energy. I used too much warming up. Jack reached for the small blaster under his cot. He didn't know if it would help, but it was all he had. Can they get in? He asked. Lyra hesitated. Then she closed her eyes and whispered a strange word. Alien. Sharp and full of weight. A faint blue shimmer filled the tent, wrapping around them like a second skin. The fabric stopped moving. The air grew still. What did you do? Jack whispered. A barrier, she said. Temporary. Outside, the shadows moved again. But they didn't come closer. Jack stood, weapon shaking in his hand. If they break in, I'll destroy myself before they take me, Lyra said calmly. Jack stared at her. No, not happening. Lyra's eyes widened slightly. Why? He answered with a half-smile. Because you came here looking for warmth. And I don't leave people out in the cold. The blue shimmer around the tent flickered like quiet lightning. Jack held his breath, frozen in place, while Lyra sat perfectly still beside him. The only sound now was the dull thump of Jack's heartbeat in his ears. Outside, the shadows didn't move like people. They glided. Jack pressed his ear against the fabric of the tent, careful not to disturb the shield. The cold crept through the thin layer, but something colder was outside, something intelligent. Patient. He risked a whisper. How many? Lyra's eyes were closed, her hands glowing faintly as she focused. 5, maybe 6. Jack tightened his grip on the blaster. Armed? She nodded once. Always. Jack's hand trembled slightly. He was a survival specialist, not a fighter. He could handle alien terrain, storms, and wildlife, but not soldiers trained to retrieve high-value targets. And that's what Lyra was. A living key. The shadows paused. Then one of them bent down. A sound came scraping. Slow, metal on ice. What are they doing? Jack asked. Lyra's voice dropped. They're drawing the seal. Jack didn't understand. The what? She swallowed. They use it to break my energy barrier. It's ancient. It binds me to them if I stay still. Jack stood quickly. So we can't stay still. Lyra grabbed his wrist. If I move too soon, they'll detect my core signature. Jack looked around the tent. His supplies were low. No teleport beacon, no second weapon. Just one heater, a medkit, 2 rations, and a dying power cell. And outside, trained hunters who didn't care about storms or treaties. Looked down at Lyra. What happens if they finish the seal? Her voice was calm, almost empty. I become theirs again. Jack clenched his jaw. No, not letting that happen. He opened his toolkit and pulled out the motion decoy, a small silver sphere. It was designed to mimic heat signatures. Jack placed it near the back of the tent, then adjusted its frequency. Lyra, when I say now, drop the barrier just enough to let this thing outside. Lyra frowned. They'll notice movement. Exactly. He pulled a thermal blanket around her shoulders. When they go after the decoy, we move. Got it? She nodded, though fear flickered in her glowing eyes. Jack braced himself. Ready? Lyra took a deep breath. Now, the shield shimmered, weakened. Jack shoved the sphere through a small flap. It rolled into the snow and blinked red. Seconds passed. Then chaos. One of the shadows shrieked, high and metallic. The others turned sharply and charged through the snow after the decoy. Thinking Lyra had escaped, Jack didn't wait. He grabbed Lyra's hand and pulled her up. Run! They burst from the tent, the storm slamming into their faces like fire. Jack had memorized the nearest ice cave during last week's terrain scan, just over a ridge, hidden behind an old survey marker. The wind blinded him. Snow stung his eyes. He kept his grip on Lyra as they climbed the frozen hill, slipping, crawling, moving fast. Behind them, a new sound rose. The shadow creatures had realized they'd been tricked. Jack didn't look back. They reached the top. Below was a crack in the ice, small and narrow. That's it. Jack yelled. They slid down the slope and squeezed into the crack just as a red bolt sizzled past Jack's shoulder. It hit the ridge and exploded in a burst of blue flame. Tunnel was tight, barely big enough for them. They crawled in silence, hearing muffled sounds behind metal footsteps, distorted voices in a language Jack didn't know. They're still tracking me, Lyra gasped. Jack grunted. Then let's keep moving. The passage grew darker. The only light was from Lyra's glowing skin. It shimmered across the ice walls, revealing carvings, symbols like the ones on her arms. Jack touched one. You've been here before? Lyra looked away. No, but I was meant to come here. The tunnel opened into a chamber. Inside, Tall crystals rose from the ground, humming softly. A low vibration passed through Jack's boots. It felt ancient. Powerful. Lyra stood still. Her hand went to her necklace. "This place. It's a vault," she whispered. "Part of the weapon is here." Jack's stomach dropped. "So we ran straight into it?" She turned to him. "No, we ran to the one place they can't follow." "Why?" "Because this place only responds to me, and to those who show me mercy." Before Jack could reply, a deep sound echoed through the chamber. The crystals glowed. The chamber sealed behind them, solid ice rising like a wall. They were safe. For now. Jack dropped to one knee, breathing hard. Lyra sat beside him. "You saved me again." Jack looked at her, exhausted but still alert. "Don't thank me yet. We're in a cave full of ancient alien tech with soldiers right behind us." She smiled faintly. "Still warmer than the storm." Jack blinked, then laughed. Just once. Asterisk inside the glowing ice cave, silence returned, thick and deep, like the moon itself was holding its breath. Jack sat on a smooth, icy rock, trying to steady his breathing. His blaster was almost frozen in his grip, and his fingers had started to go numb. The narrow escape had drained what little strength he had left. Beside him, Lyra stared at the tall crystal pillars rising from the ground. Their soft hum made the air feel alive. He finally asked the question that had been burning in his chest since the beginning. "Lyra, who really are you?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she slowly walked toward the center of the chamber, where the crystals were tallest and brightest. Her hand hovered above one of them. As her fingers got closer, the crystal pulsed with light responding. To her. Jack stood up, watching her carefully. "You said you were made to unlock a weapon, but you didn't say who made you, or why you ran." Lyra looked over her shoulder, her eyes shining faintly in the cave's glow. "I didn't run. Because I was scared of the weapon." Jack stepped closer. "Then why?" She turned fully toward him, her voice soft but heavy with pain. "Because I was the weapon." Jack froze. "What?" Lyra stepped back from the crystal and held up her arms. The strange glowing symbols on her skin brightened, flowing with alien script that moved like rivers of light. Her necklace pulsed, in sync, casting shifting patterns on the cave walls. "I'm not just the key," she said quietly. "I am the device. I'm part of it." Jack felt the chill crawl up his spine, not from the cold, but from the truth. "They put part of the weapon inside me when I was grown. I was meant to walk into enemy systems, blend in, and when activated, release an energy pulse powerful enough to collapse entire cities," she said. "I wasn't made to live a life. I was made to erase life." Jack's mouth went dry. "And the people chasing you? They're the ones who built me. Scientists, warlords, traitors who sold me between factions like a rare artifact. I escaped during transport. They didn't expect me to think." Jack blinked. "Think?" Lyra nodded. "Something went wrong, or maybe right. I started questioning everything. Why was I made? Who were these people? Why was death my only purpose?" She paused, her hands trembling now. "And then I did something they didn't plan. I ran." Jack walked up beside her. "And you ended up in my camp." Lyra looked up at him. "You were the first being to give me heat, shelter. You didn't ask for payment. You didn't try to use me." Jack shook his head slowly. "Because I didn't know what you were." Lyra gave a sad smile. "And now that you do?" He didn't answer for a moment. Then he looked her in the eyes. "Still not turning you in." Her smile faded into surprise. "Why?" Jack shrugged. "Because maybe you were made to destroy things, but you chose not to. You ran. You asked for help. That makes you more than just a weapon." Lyra stared at him as if his words were harder to believe than anything else. Suddenly, the crystals in the chamber pulsed deep blue, sharp. Lyra gasped and dropped to one knee, clutching her chest. Jack rushed to her. What's happening? Her voice was strained. They're trying to reactivate me from a distance. They found the master signal. They're overriding my free will. Jack's heart raced. Can I stop it? Tell me what to do. Lyra shook her head. Once the signal reaches full sync, I won't be me anymore. Jack looked around wildly at the crystals, the walls, the symbols. Then his eyes landed on the glowing necklace. Is that part of the system? Yes, she whispered. It keeps the pulse dormant. Jack grabbed the necklace. What happens if I destroy it? She looked up in panic. It will release the pulse. He froze. Then what if I disconnect it from you without breaking it? Lyra hesitated. I don't know. No one's ever tried. Jack pulled out his toolkit with shaking hands. His fingers moved fast, trying to override the connection. The necklace had no visible seams, no buttons, just pure alien tech. Hang on, he muttered. The crystals pulsed again. Lyra screamed. The script on her arms turned red. Jack made a choice. He pried open the necklace with his heated blade and pulled the glowing core from its socket. Everything stopped. The chamber fell silent. The hum vanished. Lyra collapsed into his arms, breathing hard but alive. The red lines on her skin faded. Her eyes opened slowly, full of tears. It worked. She whispered. Jack held her tightly. Told you. I don't leave anyone in the cold. The cave was quiet now. Only the soft drip of melting frost echoed in the silence. Lyra lay weak in Jack's arms, her glowing skin dimmed like a fading star. The necklace, the very core of her activation, was now just a hollow ring in Jack's pocket. He had pulled it out, risking everything. And somehow, it worked. Jack looked down at her, unsure what to say. She was alive, free for now. But whatever had tried to control her would try again. He knew it. We need to move, he whispered. Lyra opened her eyes slowly. I can't. My body. It's resetting. The override almost reached full sync. Jack gently helped her sit up. Then I'll carry you. She gave him a weak smile. Why do you keep helping me? He didn't answer right away. He packed the broken device and rechecked his blaster. Then he looked her in the eyes. Because you didn't choose to be this way, he said. And you trusted me when you had no reason to. Lyra blinked, stunned by the words. Jack smiled faintly. And maybe. I just don't like seeing people treated like tools. Lyra looked away, emotions too strong to speak. For someone who had been passed between owners and locked in labs, Jack's kindness felt heavier than chains. She had always expected orders, commands, betrayal. But trust? That was something new. They left the chamber slowly. Jack helped her walk through the glowing tunnels. She leaned on him, her step shaky. The crystals behind them dimmed as they moved away, sealing the vault again. But outside, danger still waited. As they stepped out into the snow-covered canyon, Jack spotted something in the sky. Black dots moving fast against the white storm clouds. Dropships. They're coming back, he said. Lyra's breath caught. They'll track me again. No, Jack said. Not if I hide your signal. He reached into his backpack and pulled out a thermal mesh sheet, a reflective blanket meant to shield human body heat from predators. He wrapped it around her. It's not perfect, but it might confuse their scanners. Lyra looked at him. They'll see you instead. Jack shrugged. Let them. I'll buy us time. Her hand grabbed his. You'll die. Jack stared at her. Better me than you. She shook her head fiercely. No, I don't want another person to get hurt because of me. He squeezed her hand. Then trust me one more time. She hesitated. Then slowly nodded. Jack turned and activated his flare beacon, sending it high into the air. It would broadcast a heat signal 10 times stronger than a normal body, drawing attention like a beacon of fire. Go to the caves to the east, he told her. There's an old comm station buried under the ice. If you reach it, you can call for help. Real help. Lyra looked at him, eyes glowing faintly again. "Come with me." Jack smiled. "I will. But first, I have to make sure they're not looking for you." She didn't like it. But she stepped back, blending into the white snow, her body wrapped in the thermal mesh. In seconds, she vanished from sight. Jack stood alone in the open, staring up as the dropships came closer. He raised his blaster and waited. The first ship hovered just above him. Bright red lights scanned him from top to bottom. Jack didn't move. A deep voice echoed from the ship's loudspeaker. "Human, step away. Surrender the asset." Jack raised his arms. "She's gone." "No lies. We detect recent activation." Jack grinned. "Then your tech is as broken as your morals." There was a pause. Then a warning. "You will be neutralized." Jack opened fire. It was suicide. His tiny blaster couldn't scratch their shields. But he didn't care. He wanted them focused on him. Behind the rocks, Lyra watched. Her heart ached. No one had ever fought for her, not like this. Not with nothing but bravery and grit. Jack wasn't powerful. He wasn't trained. But he was human. And that meant something. Just as the soldiers leapt from the ship, Lyra closed her eyes. Her core still weak, but alive. She reached inside, calling on the last pieces of her inner code, not as a weapon, but as a being of energy. A wave of static surged out, knocking the soldiers off balance. Jack turned just in time to see a blast of light rush past him, stunning the entire squad without killing anyone. The ship backed off, alarms screaming, then silence. When Jack turned, Lyra stood there, her body still faintly glowing. "I said I didn't want anyone to get hurt," she whispered. Jack smiled and fell to his knees, exhausted. "You saved me," he said. Lyra reached him, her voice soft. "We saved each other." The snowstorm began to fade, for the first time. In days, the sky above Varel 6 cleared just enough to reveal a pale, icy sun. But the peace was an illusion. Jack and Lyra stood side by side on a frozen ridge, their breath fogging in the cold air. Below them, in the valley of ice, enemy ships landed, 3 black carriers with glowing red underbellies. Hundreds of soldiers marched out in perfect silence, weapons humming with deadly energy. "They're not just here for me anymore," Lyra said quietly. Jack nodded. "They're here to erase witnesses. That includes me." Lyra touched her chest. The place where the weapon core used to be still pulsed with faint light. "They know I've changed. They don't want me broken. They want me gone." Jack clenched his jaw. "Then we make our stand here." Lyra looked at him, confused. "We can't win, Jack." He smiled faintly. "Doesn't mean we can't. Fight." From his backpack he pulled out 3 plasma charges, the last of his emergency stock. Small but powerful. Enough to collapse the ridge. Lyra's eyes widened. "You're going to bury the valley," Jack shrugged. "If they want to reach you, they'll have to dig through a mountain of frozen death." She hesitated. "And us?" He looked at her. "I can dig fast." She almost smiled. But the ground trembled before she could reply. From the largest dropship, a new figure stepped out. Tall, armored in black chrome. A visor like molten glass covered its face. It walked slowly, every step shaking the ice beneath it. "That's him," Lyra whispered. "The controller." Jack raised an eyebrow. "He doesn't look friendly." Lyra's hands glowed faintly. "He was the one who gave the order to erase my mind, to erase me." The controller raised his arm. The soldiers behind him stopped. A voice echoed across the valley, deep and emotionless. "Subject Lyra 9, return now. You are incomplete, dangerous, a threat to galactic order." Lyra took a step forward. "You're wrong. I'm free now." The controller didn't move. "That freedom ends here." Jack activated the first plasma charge and planted it into the ice. "He talks too much." Lyra's hands sparked again. "I don't want to kill, but I won't go back." "You don't have to," Jack said. "We finish this together." Then, the first wave attacked. Dozens of drones launched into the sky, spraying red plasma. Jack dove behind a frozen boulder, firing quick shots. Lyra raised both hands and formed a dome of light. The plasma bounced off harmlessly. "I thought you couldn't use your power," Jack shouted. "I couldn't. Until you helped me disconnect the control core," she replied. "Now it answers me, not them." The soldiers closed in, surrounding. The ridge. Jack fired another charge, blowing a chunk of ice under their feet. They fell screaming into the pit below. But more came. Too many. Lyra stepped forward, eyes glowing bright now, her body humming like a live wire. No more running. She raised her arms, and light exploded from her chest, pure energy shaped. Like wings. She rose into the air, hovering above the ridge. The controller stepped forward, lifting his hand, sending a black bolt toward her. Jack watched in horror, but Lyra didn't dodge. She absorbed the blast, and then returned it. A blinding shockwave shook the mountain. The enemy lines scattered. Ships cracked and burst into flames. The ice groaned beneath their feet, but Lyra was weakening. Jack could see it. He ran to her, grabbing her ankle as she floated down. "Lyra, you'll burn yourself out." She landed hard, gasping. "I have to finish it, or they'll never stop." Jack held her shoulders. "Then let's finish it smart." He looked at the last charge in his hand. The ridge was unstable. Now one well-placed blast would bring the whole mountainside down. Lyra nodded. "Place it near the base." Together, they ran to the edge. Soldiers were climbing up fast. Led by the controller. Jack planted the final charge and set the timer. 40 seconds. He shouted. Lyra turned to him. "We won't make it." Jack grinned. "You forgot something." He pulled out the remote call beacon, the one he'd fixed days ago. "I sent a signal 10 minutes ago," he said. "Help's on the way." Above them, a streak of silver tore through the clouds. A Federation rescue ship. Lyra stared in wonder. "You knew they'd come?" "I hoped," Jack said, grabbing her hand. "Now let's not die before they land." The two ran across the ice as the countdown hit 0. Behind them, the charge exploded. The entire ridge broke apart, sending the controller and his soldiers crashing into the abyss below. The rescue ship hovered just above as Jack and Lyra jumped onto the extending ramp. A voice crackled over the speaker. "Need a lift?" Jack laughed, pulling Lyra inside. "You have no idea." As the doors closed, Lyra looked back one last time at the crumbling valley, the broken machines, and the mountain she had left behind. It was over, or so she thought. The Federation ship soared high above Varel 6, leaving behind the shattered ice valley and the enemy buried beneath it. Inside the warm metallic cabin, Jack sat in silence, staring out the viewing window. Lyra was resting nearby, her head on his shoulder. Her energy signature had stabilized, her glow now soft and warm, not dangerous, just alive. Federation medics had checked her quickly, confused by her biology, but impressed that she was still stable after what she'd been through. No one had ever seen a being like her before, part machine, part energy, and still human enough to smile. Jack had given them simple answers. She was a survivor, and they didn't press further. Maybe they knew not everything needed to be written down. As the ship broke orbit, Jack turned to her and asked, "What now?" Lyra opened her eyes slowly. "I don't know. For the first time, I don't have a programmed path." Jack chuckled. "Welcome to being free. It's messy." She smiled faintly. "It's also beautiful." They watched the stars pass by in silence. 2 weeks later, on a secure Federation research station orbiting a neutral planet, Lyra stood before a panel of officials. Jack stood beside her. They had listened to the full story: the labs, the weapon core, the escape, the battle, and the controller's end. One official, a woman in a silver uniform, leaned forward. "Lyra, are you a threat to the galaxy?" Lyra didn't hesitate. Not unless you make me one. There was a long silence. Then the woman leaned back. Fair enough. They gave her a choice, stay for study, or go free under protection. She chose freedom, but with one condition. Jack stays close. Life after the storm was strange. Jack was offered medals, promotions, even an Earth return ticket. But he turned them down. Instead, he asked for a small ship, a 2-person crew license, and one quiet route on the outer colonies, a place where no one asked questions, where they could be just themselves. He called the ship Second Warmth after the night he let a stranger into his tent. And Lyra? She learned. She read books, studied art, tried chocolate for the first time and said it was too loud. Jack laughed for 10 minutes. Her powers didn't fade, but they changed. She could control them now, bend light, create barriers, even repair broken systems with a touch. She became a living miracle. Soon, rumors spread across distant stations. Stories of a glowing girl who healed sick engines and a human pilot who smiled too much. Some called her a ghost. Others called her a goddess. Jack just called her Lyra. One evening, while parked on a quiet moon orbiting a red gas giant, Lyra stood outside the ship, staring up at the stars. Jack joined her. Thinking again? He asked. She nodded. I wonder if there are others like me. Jack shrugged. Maybe, but I haven't seen anyone who can outstare a sun and still burn brighter. Lyra smiled. That's very poetic for a survival expert. I've had time to practice. She looked at him, eyes glowing with that soft silver light. Do you think they'll ever come back, the ones who made me? Jack thought for a moment. Maybe. But if they do, they'll have to get through us. Lyra reached out and took his hand. Then I hope they try. Above them, a comet streaked across the sky, leaving a silver trail that slowly faded into darkness. Epilogue. Years later, long after Jack and Lyra disappeared from official records, a new explorer discovered an old Federation outpost on a forgotten planet. Inside the main control room, written into the side of a rusted console, was a single message carved by hand. She came in from the cold. I gave her warmth. She gave me purpose. J. Below it, a tiny mark glowed faintly in the dark. The same symbol that once pulsed on Lyra's arm, now dormant, now peaceful. And somewhere far beyond that cold world, a ship flew through the stars, with 2 hearts aboard, one human, one not, but both free.